And there we go. We are live. Welcome to the Grand Scale Motivation Show, the show that gives you all that you need on personal motivation, on growth and development, actualization. Today we're starting off an entrepreneurship series, and I have a very good friend of mine on the show today. He is a serial entrepreneur, right? He runs a real estate company, a hotel management company with over 600 rooms, 11 properties in the Philippines. He also runs a venture capital company that's been working on raising 500 million US dollars and helping folks in the technology industry within the Philippines. He is only 31 years old, but has been at this game for a long time. He's been recognized by the Cebu Chamber of Commerce for his outstanding work in entrepreneurship. And so I just want to welcome my good friend, Mr. Ken Ngo, to this show. Welcome, Ken.
Yeah. Thanks, Uno, and it's an honor for me to be here, and really appreciate you inviting me. I haven't seen you in so long, and it's nice to just catch up.
It has been long, and I'm really happy that you accepted our invitation for you to join this. If you remember
Anytime.
While we were back in Japan in 2017 when we met, I said I was going to talk to you at some point. We were going to do this. So 3 years later, it is the time. So maybe let's start off on getting to know you a little bit better. Besides the profile, which is definitely impressive that we've just said, let's know the person. Who's Ken? Where did you grow up, and what part of that growing up has led you to be where you are now, choosing the path that you have chosen?
I don't know where to start. No? It's kind of difficult to introduce ourselves. Yeah, but let me just change it a bit. Normally, we're used to defining ourselves merely by the work that we do or the positions that we hold. But let me just kind of like introduce myself from a different lens, and mainly from the lens of my family and some of the things I love doing.
Right.
First of all, I'm the eldest of 3 kids. I was born and raised here in Cebu, Cebu City, Philippines. For some of you who may not be familiar with the Philippines, it's right smack in the center of the country. It's an island, and my father's Filipino Chinese, and my mother's Filipina. So I grew up in a mixed culture household, and I'd like to believe that it's a combination of these 2 cultures and taking on the strengths of the Chinese and the Filipinos that significantly shaped how I work and make decisions. That's from the family part. From the things I love doing, there are 2 things I'm really passionate about outside of work, and these have been the constant parts of what I do ever since ever since college, and even since I started working. So the first love of mine is volunteerism, and this is how Uno and I how we got to meet as well, by chance there in Japan, right? And the second is that love for the outdoors, and I wanted to highlight these 2 mainly because it's through volunteerism that I've learned so much from. I still consider it my life school, wherein a lot of the things I do, I still consider it my MBA. A lot of the things I do have been mainly through all all these organizations and groups that I'm part with. And the love for the outdoors is something wherein every time I'm out, either diving in the beach or the mountains, it gives you a sense of scale wherein you're just a small part of this world, and no matter what you accomplish or what you work on, uh, it's basically uh, it humbles us. It
Mm.
keeps us grounded, and it's something wherein I want to always have that kind of grounding experience, and I think it's something that I would always get every time I'm out, and not in the halls of in an office or in seminar rooms or in uh, whatever indoor place uh, I'd be in. So yeah, so that's I think those are a few things about me.
Okay. Okay. Um, that volunteerism you talked about seems to be a very unique of who you are. Do you think it has in any way contributed to your either balance in life or your entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, I believe uh it's contributed so much that I don't think I would be where I am today, if not for JCI or any other organization that I'm part of. And it's it's always been the avenue for me wherein we get to. It's not necessarily just the helping out part, uh,
Mm.
but it's a lot a lot of it has to do with meeting different people,
Mm.
having that avenue or that platform to be able to do projects and still have that freedom to be able to fail. And
Mm.
through those experiences, we get to know more about ourselves, how we lead, and that's always been something wherein even until now, even after taking on different positions in different organizations over the last 12 years or so,
Mm.
uh, it's still something that I still go back to, especially when there are things I'd love to experiment on, especially when I'm not very much confident experimenting them on the business, uh, in a more formal environment where the risks are higher
I
or
see. I
greater.
see.
Yeah,
Yes, yes. So you could start it up in a small local organization
yeah.
or some volunteer organization that you are in, and there you can plant the
You can
seeds of
pilot.
what you.
Yeah,
Well, it's the piloting place in a way as well.
yeah. But it's real life as compared to a lot of what we normally do in a university setting, wherein it's a lot of theory and a
Yes,
lot of
yes,
yeah.
yes.
So in a way,
Uh,
we're learning about how we lead. We're learning how to communicate with other people,
right.
uh, how to conduct projects, but at the same
Mm.
time, the helping part gets to be a bonus as well. So it's a good uh, it's a
It's
good
a good
balance.
fit. Yeah, yeah. Fantastic. So your upbringing, were any of your parents on the entrepreneurship path already? Did they do anything that kind of created a passion in you for you to start? Because you started working at 18, and for, I think you said Lens company, was it a real estate company as or construction company? Um, but you didn't take much time before you started your first real estate company. what what sparked that interest for you to start the real estate company? Was this just natural confidence, or part of it is how the things you saw when you were growing up?
Yeah. I for just to add to my family background. By the way,
Mm.
I grew up in a I think middle class household, and both my
Right.
parents are very much into entrepreneurship and business as well.
Mhm.
But I'd like to think of it that it can work positively for some, but at the same time, it can also uh, uh, have an opposite effect
Right.
for others, right? For
Mhm.
me, it started out in the opposite side because seeing my parents how they work, it kind of like uh, it didn't motivate me while I was still
Mm.
studying and growing up. It
Mm.
was kind of like I see them so busy all the time. It wasn't something wherein I want to be like them when I grow up. So when I was
Yeah.
in college, I was kind of set like, okay, I want to go into corporate work. I want to work for a large company, and then go up the ladder,
Yeah.
and contribute in that way.
Mhm.
But then uh, there's something early on which I realized uh, that kind of brought me back to entrepreneurship, and it was
Right.
this love for learning. And I
Come again.
what
I
I
missed
kind
that.
of and it's this love for learning.
Right.
And it was kind of after working for over a year in a corporate setting, uh, I kind of like settled into a routine, and most of the things that I learned uh, came into a box or a template, and I
Right.
felt that there were many more things. I was restless back then. I was 18. There were more things that I wanted to do and I wanted to learn, and I wanted to explore it in a different environment rather than being beholden to uh, basically the
A job
corporate
description.
uh,
Mm.
setup. So there's this freedom in entrepreneurship that I longed for back then, and it was just actually what took time was just uh, just that gaining was gaining that confidence to be able to jump uh, and deciding to okay, I want to kind of like strike it on my own.
Mm.
So it took me around almost 2 years to be able to kind of prepare myself, and then boom, it was a leap for myself.
Mm. Mm. Take me through that leap, that 2 year period when you are deciding to say, I think, I want that freedom to move from a space of having a job into the space of being an entrepreneur. What considerations did you have to make before you took the leap? And I know, because I know many of the people who watch the Grand Scale Motivation Show are possibly in the same um, space that you were in back then before
Yeah.
you took the leap. How did you make it comfortable for yourself, or at least give yourself that comfort to say, now I can take the leap, I want to go and do this?
First, there's a certain level of privilege here, that comes into play, and it's
Right.
not necessarily for everyone. At the
Right.
same time, we also understand that real estate development would normally be the first business that would start, especially considering the fact that it's a high risk and a capital intensive undertaking,
Right.
and it wouldn't be very very ideal for most, right? So I
Hmm.
I guess uh, it it was that preparation period and the journey towards shifting from a 9 to 5 job to basically
Right.
uh, starting a new company. It was more on getting a sense of timing and connecting the
Hmm.
dots.
Hmm.
The first thing for me was that the first dot for me was that the company that I was the company that I was working for back then and its location. So the company that I was working for back then was in real estate, and
Hmm.
it's in the central business district of Manila. and it was strategically located where most of uh, the other real estate conglomerates and offices are, and surrounding it are government offices as well as finance institutions. So it you're kind of in that environment
Right.
day to day, and it's just a matter of how you kind of make the most of it and kind of expose yourself. And I got the privilege of having my first job uh, as an executive assistant for a certain real estate executive. And
Right.
with that, I guess it was a stroke of luck as well, because it allowed me to meet so many different people from different industries. So I'm not stuck in a cubicle or just in a certain department. My day to
Mm,
day work was very very much diverse. So there's
mm,
that uh, which was I believe important. The second was the composition of the people I hung out with on weekends. Uh,
right.
so there's this. So I got into scuba diving early on, and to go diving in Manila, you have to travel 3 hours away to this place called Anilao, and that's where normally you'd go on a Friday night and then you'd come back on a Sunday. Back then, there wasn't a lot of young people who would go into scuba diving because of the costs, etc. But it was something that I was really passionate about.
Right.
So normally for me to be able to go, I kind of associated myself with a lot of young professionals. Uh, and these are from different corporate entities also around Makati. Not uh, this is a group of people that aren't very young, so they've already kind of gone up the ladder and are at a point in their careers wherein they're already willing to help out.
Right.
So this was basically the second dot for me.
Mhm.
And these people, most of them, fortunately, are in the real estate fields as well. So
Mhm.
they became my first kind of group of advisors that I can always go to. And the 3 hour
Mm.
trips back and forth, the weekends that you spent in the dive resorts, uh, presented the perfect environment for me to be able to ask any questions I would need, and
Right.
also um, every now and then ask for referrals uh,
Mm.
if needed. So there's that part that I felt was very very important as well. And the third
Mm.
thing is the value that my own family brought. So my family's in the construction industry, and
Yes.
when you're looking at the real estate development field, there's a lot of very technical parts in the business that you need to learn, and it's the cost. I think it's also the most costly part of real estate development. If you
Right.
make a wrong decision in terms of construction,
Mhm.
uh, and in terms of building plans, etc., it would set you back several years. And I had a
Mm.
privilege and that my family's into that line of work.
Mm.
So any construction know-how or advice that I needed, I could just easily consult them, and they
Right.
also helped me not not necessarily financially, but in terms of being able to
Have technical
secure
knowledge.
the necessary credit uh,
Oh.
as well, right? When they're starting out, because you need a lot of those relationships with construction material providers
Oh
start
yes.
developing.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
So it's not necessarily direct uh, help, because
Mhm.
when you're young, there's still pride in you that you want to strike it out on your own. But at the same time,
Yeah.
it's a privilege that I think was very very important, that doesn't uh, that's not available for everyone as well.
Yeah.
So that's the
Yeah.
third dot for me. Uh,
Yeah.
and then I think the fourth or last is basically just the privilege of youth,
Mm.
and being uh, 19, 20 back then. It I basically was had no baggage, basically, that I cared. So nobody knew me in Manila. I could face anyone. And this was a at a time where uh, I I would just cold visit offices or call people who basically I wanted to meet or ask advice from, because I basically didn't have any uh, understanding of pride or failure back then. So yeah, I think those worked in my favor uh,
Ah,
when I was starting out.
interesting. I hear a lot of social capital here in terms of the relationships that you built with your former boss, who kind of taught you the ins and out of the real estate business, your network whom you went scuba diving for, with that also helped you in kind of getting your way around, and then your family, because they were in the construction business, kind of helping you to minimize costs and access credit
Yeah,
from the suppliers that that you needed to face. That's pretty cool,
and
and the
then
privilege of youth, you say. The So that's where your
yeah,
entrepreneur, you didn't have anything to be afraid of, and then you go in. There's questions here. I think this, whoever is asking, this solo Vusi is very much into your field, because the questions are pretty technical. So the first one, you may not have to answer it now, but we can keep it in mind. I think the first one he
all
asked
right.
was, what was the startup capital and what was his first property venture? And then what is the average yield you target from your property investments?
Yeah, for from the startup capital part, you basically the I think the most expensive part when you're starting out in real estate development is land acquisition or lot acquisition. And I was
Right.
fortunate to be at that time to be working at a company where in the building across it is the one of the biggest government uh, what I'd say loan uh, the biggest government loan facility for uh, both developers who want to develop projects
Right.
and the same time for homeowners who want to buy houses.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So basically, from there, just by just connecting the dots, you can actually uh, try to go through all the requirements. If you have a property in mind, you don't start up big. You can start up with a property as small as 3,000 square meters or even less,
Mm-hmm.
and then uh, ask for government development. We call it developmental loans. Back then, they weren't very strict, but it was kind of abused. And this is a continuing story wherein a few years after I started this, um, the entire business went bankrupt. And basically, I failed this first venture, mainly because this government agency that I worked with was caught in a controversy in terms of other groups taking advantage of how lenient they were in terms of processing loans. And basically, after this controversy, they kind of tightened all the requirements, and it was very difficult for me to uh, collect
Continue.
uh, collect and continue with the business. So it was a good learning opportunity for me, and it kind of I mean the capitals involved were huge, but then if there are loan facilities that are uh,
Secured.
specific to basically that line of business that are kind of willing to help you out, then of course it's something that you can kind of jump into. The profit margins are huge as well in the development in the real estate development industry. But at the same time, there are it's extremely complicated, which is something that I love about it, because it uh, at a young age back then, it was something that every single day there's so many things that you can learn from, whether it be marketing and sales, whether it
Yes.
be construction, whether it be permits processing, application. There are over 20 permits that you need to secure, and all these 20 permits have all the sub requirements. In total, it would total around 400 different documents. So
Jeez.
all this, the entire process was a really good experience, and learning opportunity for me. So basically, I saw it as a good learning opportunity. And the second part of it was, okay, if there's any financial reward or success that I can get from this, then good, right? Uh, but then it turned out that this venture of mine, I'd say, ran into a ran into a wall, and it
Mhm.
was only a few years after that, around 3 years ago, when I restarted it. Only
Okay.
when I I've gotten into a more stable uh, financial position already.
Okay. Okay. But with that hindsight now and that experience that you had early on is helping you in the business that you then kind of restarted in the development space.
Yeah, and it's the I mean, the social capital is still there. The networks that you've built are still all there. It's
Right.
just sometimes the a matter, again, it's a lot of this is a matter of timing. Uh,
Hmm.
Sometimes you can do or follow all the plans that you've made, but then uh, luck isn't on your part.
Yeah.
So as I grew older, I kind of like have that uh, a better understanding of the importance of timing in everything that we go into, or anything we get involved ourselves.
Mm, 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 mm. All right. So you are starting from your real estate development company, and then you go through it, and then you hit a brick wall in there, and then is that when you then started the hotel management company? How did you recover from there and start a different organization?
Yeah. So not immediately, right? So
Okay.
after I went into problems, I was deep in debt after that first venture of mine. So I had no other choice. When I said I was deep in debt, it was a matter of collection problems. So I had uh, a certain amount in collectibles that I couldn't collect from, and a certain amount in payables uh, that I'm supposed to
Needed to
pay.
pay. Right.
Uh, and the collectibles is way higher than my payables. So I believe it was basically just a matter of time, and I was still
Mhm.
hopeful back then that in a matter of 2 3 years, when I'd be able to comply with all the revised government requirements, uh, I'd be able to collect all the collectibles that I
So government
uh,
regulation there had played a role in
yeah.
changing the scope and making it difficult for you to survive in the same way that you were surviving before.
Yeah, so when they had that controversy, they changed all government regulations and went to very strict requirements. And with that, I needed to pay off all my debts, and this is where I had no other choice but to come home from Manila, to Cebu, where as part of the family helping and bailing me out, uh, one of the conditions was to uh, come back and help the family business.
All right.
So that was until the time when I can collect and pay off all my debts, uh,
Right.
and that's when during that time, I kind of, when I was working with the family, that was also the time when I started planning where I can go into next, and learning from the real estate industry we're in. One of my biggest problems when I was there was cash flow. I
Right.
wanted to I wanted to go into. I mean, if you look at the financial statements, uh, the real estate development world, you may have very very good income statements, uh, and your income statements will look very very nice, with high margins,
Huge
etc. But
profits.
your
Yeah.
cash flow is very very weird because you put out capital early on, but it takes time before you get back all the
Mm.
investment that you make,
All
right?
right.
So so basically, after that learning experience and looking into basically what I needed to correct, I felt that I wanted some level of stability, and that
Mm-hmm.
stability may or can come from uh, maybe the service industry,
Mm-hmm.
wherein you can get a regular, steady cash flow once you set it up properly.
All
So
right.
first was the option of starting out a restaurant because it needed
Mm-hmm.
less capital. Uh, but then I had no idea or know-how in food. And it was something that was too complicated for me. Ingredients, recipes. It was
Mm-hmm.
something that I wasn't extremely passionate about. And then I saw that the hotel industry was something much simpler, wherein it's just basically rooms that you sell on a nightly basis. And basically, if you set it up properly, you're in a good location. You can build up that service part, and then you can have that. You can generate a steady amount of cash flow, although the profits may not be as enticing as
As
the
the
real estate
construction,
industry.
maybe.
It was something that can give you stability, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I started working on that plan and started scouting for properties that I can lease out. So I didn't have the capital anymore because I was still paying off my debts from the previous company. So it was
All
just a
right.
matter of looking for a property or property owners who are willing to basically, who are too lazy already to manage their buildings, uh, but then are, and at the same time are also willing to lease them out and have an external operator operate it for them. So I started out
All right.
there. I started with 19 rooms. So from there, just kind of like the more properties and the more rooms it's a lease operate model. So there's basically very very little capital and exposure or risk as compared to the real estate field. And the biggest risk or problems that we encountered is just during this time, during this pandemic. But then
I can
other than
imagine.
that, we experienced a really really good 6 7 years.
Okay. So here your business model is to make commission from the rental um, income that you get for, or do you charge a fee for the property management? Um, so
Yeah,
you basically don't have the property in your balance sheet, right? It's
yeah. So
you and
it's
your
very very
people
asset
manage.
light.
Mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm.
So there are two models.
Okay.
If you want to have higher margins or profit, you can actually lease out the properties and guarantee the property owners uh, a steady flow of income where they don't need to worry about you performing or not. The second is sacrifice on those margins, but then have some sort of like revenue sharing arrangement with these property owners. So when I started out, it was basically we normally would want to start out on a revenue share model and then go into a fixed contract wherein you pay them on a fixed monthly fee, and then you have unlimited upside after that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But at the beginning, because you are growing the business, it
Yeah,
takes quite a long time for you. If you fix your costs, then you kind of kill yourself on that. But as you
yeah,
grow, you want to fix it because you can grow the business.
yeah. And
So
there's economies of scale involved as well. So you want to grow fast
right,
in this type of business or industry, because there's
right,
some sort of like an inflection point where your HR teams, your accounting teams, your sales and marketing teams don't need to grow anymore, and now there's the technology part as well, uh, that kind of allows you to almost add unlimited number of rooms, but have almost
the
the
same
same
overheads, but
operational expenses.
all
Yeah,
right, all right, all right, all right. Okay, but at the beginning, you still need to be, holding all these fixed costs. Um, and the
yeah,
more but when you add the numbers of rooms, it becomes a lot lighter on the overhead still. I get what you're
yeah,
saying. So now your hotel management business is it the one that has over 400 sort of core workers and over 600 rooms that you are your company is managing?
yeah. This is the hotel management company.
And it's
So
been over
so
7 years,
we
is it?
launched it. We launched it September 16, 2013.
Okay. Wow, that's
Yeah,
been quite a big sort of growth with 16 rooms at the beginning, now over 600 rooms. Tell me something about this 7 year period. What have you learned through the 7 year period? And also, what led to this massive growth in your business? Um,
and I I'd like to think that again, luck and timing is a huge part of all this, right? So uh, there's I mean, there's no one set formula on
right,
how to do it. It's something wherein there are opportunities out there. You just want to jump into it. Uh,
right.
but then I think there are, what's nice about entrepreneurship is that there are certain sets of principles that you can learn over time that remains constant. Uh,
Hmm.
and this is something wherein I've always uh, I've always believed that it's not something you're not. It's entrepreneurship is not something you're born from. It's something that you learn over time. Because
Hmm.
with experience, you get to have a better read of people, better read of uh, uh, the environment around you, better
Right.
read of what industries are ideal to go into, etc. So a big part of the success in this hotel management space or in the service industry for me, what's nice about this is it's all people. Uh, it's I mean it's both the nice part about it and it's the difficult part about it.
Right.
Uh, right? This is where why I credit it to luck is that a big part of how successful you're going to be in the service industry is your first few hires
Right.
and the people you're going to be surrounding yourself with. If Especially considering that I don't have any background in the hospitality industry as well, so
Right. Right.
I just have the vision and basically the strategy uh,
Hmm.
and basically the network as well that I can kind of gather. But then
Hmm.
the specific parts of the business I had to rely on from uh, other people,
Right.
and this is where being exposed in different groups, having a wide network, and having that humility to constantly uh, ask people for advice or referrals
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
this is where it comes into play. And I've been very very fortunate that the people I started the hotel business with, most of them are still with me now. And it's one of the things I'd say that one of the uh, things I'm most proud of.
Yeah.
Wherein we've kind of grown together over the years.
Yeah.
And it's something that I personally don't take lightly,
Mm,
and something that I'm very very grateful for.
mm. And you mentioning people being, the greatest asset, and also, I suppose, the greatest pain that comes with managing. First, a small group of people. Now you have a bigger group of people, over 400 people. What have you learned about leadership? Or I think that question is possibly needing on its own before I put in leadership. People management. What is it that has kept these people that you started with, um, that has kept them
uh,
with you, and that has also led to that growth in the people that you manage, in your business?
all right. I actually just got to kind of define it maybe 3 4 years ago,
Hmm.
when someone I work with in JCI shared a term to me. But then it's something which I kind of believed in ever since from the very
Yeah.
beginning. But then I didn't have a
Yeah.
proper term for it. And
Right.
and the concept is as above, so below. Uh, and
Come
this is
again.
something wherein as above, so below.
Okay.
And this is something that has been very very effective, not just in leadership, uh, wherein the qualities that you show, the humility, the strength, the courage, the confidence, it's something that the people you work with can latch onto, uh, and if they can feel it, it's something that can give them that confidence as well, uh,
Mhm.
or that discipline. So that's its effect in the leadership part. The second part is that it also allows us to kind of evaluate people better.
Mhm.
Wherein when we're evaluating supervisors or leaders across the entire organization, uh, we don't really uh, we don't really have a lot of measurements or a lot of forms that you need to fill up. It's basically I just need to look at the people who that supervisor is assigned to manage or lead, and if the people are all kind of aligned, they're motivated, they're inspired, and they're learning, then I can say that that person or supervisor is a good leader or manager. So it's not very very definite metrics, but then your performance as a leader is gauged by the quality and the growth of the people under you. So yeah, as above, so below. It's something which
Above, as above, so below.
yeah.
Hmm. 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 So it's basically a philosophy in which you have to grow the skills of the people, um, below you, and their growth
It's
determines your growth.
yeah, it's a leadership philosophy that it's a leadership philosophy that uh, allows for uh, wherein all the other values and cultural qualities that you want to see in the business are always very much dependent on uh, first, of course, the top leader of the company. It can be you or the management team that you're with. If
Mm-hmm.
all of you possess the qualities that you are, basically, it's a leadership philosophy where there's an alignment in what you say to what you're doing, and there's a level of consistency that the people you work with that they can see, right? And when they can see that, it's not very very difficult anymore to kind of get them to follow you because uh, it's what they see in you.
So it's like you are modeling exactly what you would want them to do
Yeah,
in the business as well. Okay, okay,
yeah.
that's a very interesting. So in this 7 years plus the 2 3 years in the real estate development company, what are some of the major challenges that you have faced or that you have had to overcome?
I I don't know. There's just too many of them. I think name any challenge or name a challenge, and I think I've experienced it already. Especially after this pandemic, where it is just a perfect combination of everything that can possibly go wrong from a business point of view, right? So I think uh, all kinds of challenge from pilferage uh, to conflicts in the workspace, to financial problems, to sometimes working capital gaps, to high collectibles, to I think to basically I had a property burned down a few years back, uh,
Jeez.
to government problems. So basically across the field, I think that's what's nice about the entrepreneurship journey. You have to take the highs with the lows. Uh, and as the longer you're in it, uh, the calmer you are when challenges
The
come
highs
in.
and lows come through. I love exactly what you've said right there. That is a quotable quote there, Mr. Ngo. The longer you stay in it, sorry, I kind of missed it. The longer you stay in it, the more calm you are when the
Yeah,
more challenges come, because it's each challenge is more or less you've experienced it in one way or the other, and so you are not they don't shock you anymore.
yeah. I mean, every now and then, it's still nice
You
to
get
have
the
a
shock.
problem-free or stress-free environment, right? but then, but then you have that confidence already that okay, I've faced that before. This is how we're gonna solve it. One, two,
Yeah,
three, four.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Now,
And
yes. Go ahead.
no, it's also useful to maintain and protect relationships that you build over time. And I think it's something wherein it gives you that integrity in how you do business, and that sincerity in how you do business is very important because the bigger the problems that you'd face, uh, those networks and relationships that you've built over time are also going to be the same things that whether you know it or not may help you. And I've encountered uh, so many instances over the last 10 plus years wherein uh, at the right time, the right connections or people just present themselves to you, and these are people who you may have touched or contributed or added values or helped in one way or another many years past, uh, and things just come full circle.
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
Mhm.
And there's that in everything that we normally do, we just want to establish that kind of win-win scenario, win-win
Yes.
mentality,
Right.
wherein I don't take advantage. I mean I need to earn or I need to profit
Ye-
because it's still a business at the end
ye-
of the day.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to shortchange you uh,
Yes.
or give
Yes.
you something that you may regret dealing with me
Yeah. Yeah.
later on.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that has really helped me out,
Mhm.
especially when challenges pop.
Have come through. Okay. Perfect. Now, to your last venture or the most recent venture. Most definitely not last when I see the number of things that you do. Um, the venture capital company. Um, what drove you into getting into that venture capital company with your friends and made you build this massive capital base to start investing in other organizations or people within the Philippines?
Yeah. I think I still have that restlessness uh, or that uh, mindset of learning that I had when I back in the time when I was fresh out of college. And
Right.
one of the things I established early on, and this is how I run businesses and how I set up the operational structure and all the processes. I normally set everything up with the goal of, or with the target of, if I make this decision or if I make this change in a certain process, will I be able to make myself dispensable, and uh, will I be able to fire myself from this business later on and allow this business to continue to grow? And that's something that has allowed all the companies or all the businesses that I've gotten involved in to kind of set up professional uh, management structure early on, wherein it's, I mean, all of us want to micromanage things, right?
Yeah.
But then we there's a high level of trust in everything that we do, wherein uh, we get to delegate early on, and
Mhm.
this allows for different parts of the business and different departments to get to a level wherein they can stabilize themselves uh, very early. And from
Mhm.
there, normally after 5 years, I normally have this kind of like checkpoint we're in. Uh, is this business ripe enough already? We're in. It can continue to grow even if I'm not part of the day-to-day operations. So after setting up the hotel management company in late 2013, its fifth year mark was in 2018.
Mhm.
So 1 year before that fifth year mark, around late 2017, I was already starting to kind of plan and prepare for, okay, which industry uh, will give me that certain challenge, or would I want to get into. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I've really kind of been very much insecure about, even when I started out, was I wasn't very familiar because I graduated college very early and I don't have the MBA experience that
All right.
uh, you may consider important, right? So I've been very insecure in terms of all these financial models and all these corporate jargon uh, that normally comes with businesses or running businesses. Uh, and it's something that I wanted to challenge myself in. And looking into it, I felt that if I jumped into the financial industry, it would be kind of like, okay, a good experience for me wherein I can learn all these business jargon or formal corporate jargon. I can uh, learn proper financial modeling rather than just doing my own computations from how I understood business before. So it's a shift to a more formal kind of uh, it's a shift to to a more formal business environment or setting. So this is what I wanted to challenge myself with, and I knew that in the financial industry, uh, it would be very difficult to get into, mainly because it works on really long standing relationships, and it's I mean it's for extremely formal in a way that someone like me who likes to go into the office wearing a t-shirt and shorts wouldn't
Right.
very much fit into. So
Yeah.
I started this with two friends, and we knew from the very start that it would take us years. 5 years would be too fast. 10 years uh, would most likely be the case if we start it from scratch,
Mhm.
especially with the three of us not being from the finance industry. So what we wanted was we looked for strategic partners we can work with,
Mm.
and we found it in one of the biggest venture capital firms, who were partnered with for this first fund of ours. And this venture capital firm that we're partnered with is basically has a 13 country presence.
Right.
They've been in the industry for the last 18 years,
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time, its founder was someone. Uh, it, it, it's very interesting because we flew to Malaysia to meet the founder of this venture capital firm
Mm-hmm.
with the expectation of just shadowing him and the people around him. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
we weren't confident that we had basically all the. I mean, I'm 31, but I look like I'm 18, right? So we
Yeah.
weren't confident that we'd fit the mold. Uh, we fit the mold of people that they'd normally work with. But then from the
Right.
first meeting that we had, uh, this founder gave us the respect of. It seemed like we were people who could add value, and
Mm-hmm.
he didn't just look at us from a financial industry perspective. It was something that we
Mm-hmm.
appreciated, that he respected us and what we could possibly bring to the table early on. And from there,
Mm-hmm.
uh, interestingly, after 3 days in Malaysia, he brought us to dinner and put out the offer, which surprised the three of us partners. Uh, if we wanted to uh, set up a country fund for the Philippines together with
Wow.
him.
Wow.
So it was an offer that we felt was too good to be true.
Mm-hmm.
We did we felt at first that okay, it's too good to be true. It may be something he's just high, or it's something that they just wanted to say while we're here, right? But then a few months after we got back in the Philippines, uh, we didn't really take it seriously because we thought it was something that was again too good to be true. But then we received an email following up on that offer, and it was during that time when okay, this is serious. So we went straight to work, and in less than 5 months, we're able to set everything up. Uh,
Right.
Mainly because we just we were inspired by that confidence that he had in us, that we could be his
Mm.
partners. So we wanted to
Mm.
kind of like, okay, we want to show you something also that we can get things done. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting play wherein if I actually owe a lot of how we've grown, especially in the finance industry and into the venture capital space. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I owe it to him and the confidence that he had, uh, not just in me, but also to my partners
Yes.
ever since that first
Yes.
meeting 3 years ago.
Mm. Mm. Last question. In this venture capital business that you are in, you've obviously met a lot of tech companies that you can invest in, or that you have invested in, and I think throughout your entrepreneurial life, you've had to pitch for investments as well. There are many people who are watching this show or who will watch this show later who want to be capital ready and want to face people like you who are venture capitalists. Um, what would be your advice to them as they raise capital? What kind of things are you looking for?
I think the first one should be. I think the most basic one is the business model feasible, right? Is it is it something that's timely and relevant, uh, basically to not just the industry but to the locality where you're establishing your business in on, right? So, but then normally the financial or business model part is something we're in at this point in time uh, with the internet. and with all the knowledge that you can find, you can basically copy it. Like for example, a
Yeah.
lot of how we look into companies here in the Philippines, we look at our database with our partner VC because they're heavily involved in China, and look at what were
Mm-hmm.
the successful companies in China and see what can be copied here into the Philippines or in
Mm-hmm.
Southeast Asia.
Mm-hmm.
So the business model part is something where yes, it needs to be timely and relevant to the locality that you're in. But
Mm-hmm.
beyond that, because I think the business model uh, can be copy pasted at this point in time. For the entrepreneurs or founders out there, I normally it's become very difficult to do due diligence work over the last few months, especially when you have to do a lot of online meetings.
Right.
We don't. I personally haven't adjusted that well yet to online meetings because I'm very used to face to face conversations.
Right.
Uh, and but then a big part of what we do or how we look for founders is that we look for entrepreneurs uh, who basically have found a bigger purpose in why he or she started the company in the first place. Something that is
Mm-hmm.
beyond himself or herself, and
Mm-hmm.
of course, obviously, something beyond just uh, the monetary rewards that may come in
Mm-hmm.
later on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's very important because it allows you to uh, be able to face different challenges in a very positive and optimistic light for as long as you have that good foundation of your why, right? And it's something that
Mm-hmm.
I personally have always seen in my own personal entrepreneurship journey, wherein uh, if I set myself, if I set my mind into, okay, I want to get into this certain business or industry, uh, the financial rewards will come in later as maybe validation of how hard we've worked, but then it should be bigger than myself. Like right
Yeah.
now, one of the key things, if I'm in the service industry and I work with so many people, even if we're having huge challenges with with travel bans and all that, uh, we're working our we're doing our hardest to basically just retain all these personnel because they're the ones uh, who've kept everything running for the last 6 or 7 years.
Mm.
And during this time of hardship, even when the company's really having a difficult time to stay afloat because of obviously the pandemic, we have to exhaust all means to just to retain them. And I'd say that for us, as we may not be profitable right now because of all the lockdowns and with no tourism, but the bigger purpose in running a hotel management company is in uh, being able to provide that livelihood to so many people. And I should protect that first and foremost, not just in good times, but especially during a challenging time like this. And I'd like to believe that if I can protect that purpose uh, and protect these coworkers of mine at a difficult time like this, then I am I'm worthy, right, to be able to continue running this business. And
Wow.
that's something that I normally would want to look into founders or people who I work with. Uh, Wherein are you just in this for the
Some money.
fame and the financial rewards that come with it, or is there a bigger purpose on of why you're starting this venture or business? Whether
Mm.
it be for yourself, uh, I mean, it's always a balance. There's always that personal motivation that has to come with it, but you have to be able to every now and then set aside the personal motivations for that bigger purpose, uh, if you have it. The second is I really like to work with companies and founders who I mentioned this earlier, who seek win-win situations in everything that they do, because they're
Mm,
not difficult to negotiate with. Our
mm,
values are aligned, and these are normally founders wherein uh, they might not necessarily be at the size or scale wherein we can invest in them already. But then
mm.
normally over their journey, we spend so much time with them because we believe in them. And that's where we build the relationships early on. And it's also something wherein on their end, uh, what we just kind of expect is in how they deal with their customers, their users, in how they grow their organizations, and in how they deal with investors and grow their companies. They kind of like seek all those win-win scenarios, right? We're in, yes, profitable, but not to a point where you're greedy already. Uh, and the last is I like to work with founders and people who continue to stay grounded, and this allows for that continuous learning. And I really like organizations or management teams wherein uh, they're constantly evolving, continuously learning, and they have that humility to admit if they've made mistakes. Uh, they also uh, are very much gracious uh, in their successes, because normally when you're in the VC space and in the tech space, uh, and we're talking about millions of dollars in investments and exponential growth, uh, it's so easy to uh, it's so easy for many of the founders, if they're not grounded enough, to be distracted. You're
Right.
distracted by press articles that are written about you. You're distracted about all the requests for interviews and all these things.
Mhm,
Uh,
mhm.
and I think all these things, the three things that I've shared, kind of like are interconnected. We're
Right.
in if you have like a bigger purpose for why you're starting this company of yours, and then you always seek win-win uh, opportunities. You're just not thinking of yourself or your own company. And at the same
Mm.
time, these two things will actually allow you to continue to stay grounded, even through the successes and the failures that you'll encounter in your entrepreneurship journey.
Wow. 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 That is amazing. Thank you very much, Ken Ngo, for
Oh, thank
coming through
you.
to the Grand Scale Motivation Show. I really, I have
This
been
is actually my first interview.
really.
I
then,
this is
then
actually
for
a first
sure,
for
then
me.
for sure, you are a grounded man.
No, nobody invites me, man. It's just you who. I was surprised when you
No
sent me a
way.
message.
No, no, no ways. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you saying yes to coming to this show and, teaching us all that you have taught us. And I love the last part that you talk, talked about, having a higher purpose why you're doing this, seeking win-win relationships and making sure that, you stay grounded. I doubt that you would go to many venture capital leaders and they tell you the very same thing that you have said now. But the essence of what you have said is really, really important. And I think I see that groundedness in you. It hasn't changed from the time I first met you, because at that time I was just like, I'm meeting this 28-year-old guy who runs a hotel management company that has 300 or 400 employees. And when we're talking, he's just talking like, hey, bro, what's up?
Man,
I'm
you
like,
you
hey,
make you make it sound so nice, but then you're not sharing the failures. Man, I failed in my bid for national presidency for no, but
no, but I
we
mean,
keep on fighting.
we definitely do. So thank you so much. There's lots of good vibes coming here. I can see great comments. Solo Vusi was here. He was following throughout and he's given shout outs to you. Maggie from Zambia has been also following this conversation. I know that many people are going to follow this up. Nkosazana has also been following up. Let's just conclude by saying, is there any opportunity for you to take your venture into Africa? This is my audience here in Africa. What's your appetite for Africa?
I'm not at that level yet. I'm not. First is that I just manage the funds or finances of other people, right? So basically, it's the fund that we have right now is single country focused. So we're focused in the Philippines.
Right.
Second is that I'm not very familiar with the business landscape in Africa. And it's something that I from this side of the world, from where I'm sitting, and this is why technology is amazing, right? And why I'm very, very grateful for this experience, because even if there's basically an 8-hour difference in our time zones, but we get to actually learn more about not just what I do here in Asia or in the Philippines, but we get to learn from someone. I get to learn from someone like you in Africa as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not familiar with the business landscape in Africa. But who knows where we'd be years from now, right?
I think that's exactly an answer you can get. I think that's exactly the answer you would get from a grounded person like you. But if you're watching this show, this seems very promising for us. At some point, I hope, Mr. Ngo, you get interest in our continent. We are the fastest growing as economically. We also have the youngest population, and there are lots and lots of up and coming vibrant entrepreneurs who would love not only to learn from you, but to do work with you. But thank you very much for this hour that you have spent with us. I hope that as we go into the future, many people will watch this. So if you're watching this, thank you very much for coming through. If you're going to watch this afterwards, thank you very much for watching. And please add comments, please add questions, whatever it is. Who knows? Perhaps Mr. Ngo would want to come for a part 2 at some point. But for now, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.